Yeah, so what's your message in Amnesty International by participating here in this protest?
So Amnesty International is proud to stand here in solidarity with the students of Parkland School in Florida and the US students around the country calling for sensible gun reform across the USA. Today is the coming together of a huge movement of students across the USA calling for sensible gun reform. And our message is clear that the time is now for the US government to protect the right to life in the USA and bring in sensible measures such as a ban on assault rifles, these military-grade weapons that are on sale across the USA, and bringing national legislation on background checks.
Yeah, do you think this kind of protest and marches in the United States of America and abroad will have an impact on the decision of the American administration?
I think today is the beginning of a movement. Today people are coming together all across America, all across the world, to call on their government to change gun reform, to bring in gun reform legislation in their country. Today is vitally important. Today we're seeing marches and protests in 800 locations around the world, 700 in the USA. And that is obviously really important, but today needs to be the beginning of a movement where you see young people talking and lobbying to their senators, to their representatives, calling for gun reform and making sure that the message of today is not lost. This is the beginning of a long-term movement that will bring change to the USA, and what the Parkland students have done at this time of grief is incredibly powerful and just amazing, and we're proud to stand with them in calling for that change.
Yeah, when we see the politicians in the United States avoid making a reform in terms of tackling this issue, how do you assess human rights in the United States? Don't you think that the politicians are blamed for this situation?
So with what's happening in the USA at the moment, when the US government is essentially failing in their duty to uphold the right to life, a very important right in the USA, gun violence becomes a human rights issue, and that's why you need national reform on legislation. You need to make sure that there's a situation where there is a minimum standard of background checks on guns, that these incredibly powerful military-grade weapons that are on sale are not available to people, and all of these things will come together to hopefully decrease the number of shootings and gun deaths that we see in the USA. The level of gun violence in the USA specifically is unprecedented. The figures speak for themselves, and you see countries around the world that have different legislation around guns. In the UK ourselves, we had our own moment in 1996 in Dunblane, the shooting at a primary school in Scotland. And after we saw 17 people die in that incident, we came together as a country, much like Americans are doing today, and we said enough is enough, and we changed our legislation. We brought in gun control, and we have luckily never seen a repeat of that incident.
Well, can the US administration spread the values of human rights while inside the United States we are seeing that there is abuse of human rights by avoiding restricting gun control?
It is very important that the US government upholds the values of human rights and the various international treaties that they are party to, and that is also why we're here today. Gun violence is a human rights issue because it does violate the right to life, and it is important that the US government comes together, listens to all of the young people that have come out today, and brings in these sensible regulations on gun control.